What's up guys, in this video I'm going to try my best to turn you into a Hunt Showdown god. Now, I can only do so much in a video, and Hunt Showdown is a pretty complicated tactical shooter that can seem simple when looking at its bare bones. However, under the hood, there's all sorts of things experienced players do that a normal casual doesn't. Before we begin, keep in mind I am directing this guide mainly towards newer players, so lots of you may know most of this information. When it comes to PvP, there are two main types of player behavior. There's the micro gameplay and the macro gameplay. The micro behaviors of a player include the minute decisions a player may make that can drastically put you in a better or worse position. The macro behaviors are your overall decisions you execute. A brief example would be in a scenario where my teammate is down, a macro decision would be to go and revive my teammate. A micro decision would be me reloading my gun as I run over to my teammate, making more use of my time moving over to him. I can teach and show you the micro elements of this game in this video for you to implement into your gameplay. But to teach macro gameplay would mean to have a full fight recorded and explain my reasoning for every decision I make. And since obviously circumstances can change drastically between matches and you can't just make the same decisions every game, this means you can't actually teach macro gameplay. But hopefully I can steer you into the right mindset for your games so you'll be much more proficient in every gunfight. So this video will be focusing on the micro aspects of PvP, and I'll make a series of videos for the macro side of things. So hit subscribe if you're interested in that. To begin, the first step of PvP is obviously fighting players. Obviously, one of the easiest ways to do this is to go to the boss layer since that's where everyone is headed. However, there are other things like sound traps such as birds, horses, and dog or chicken cages that players can trigger to alert you of their location. However, there are other ways of knowing if players are in a certain location. For example, if you shoot a window that's very far away, if the window doesn't break, that means there is no one nearby to run to that window. It will break, however, if you approach it and load it in, so don't be surprised if you see that happen. This is best used when approaching boss layers to check if people are there before you arrive. Another way is during the ash bloom time of day. During this time of day, all dog and chicken cages will go off during the ash bloom, regardless of a player disturbing them. If players are in a compound to load in that dog cage, the dogs will go off and you will know there's people over there. Otherwise, if no one is around, the dog cage won't load and you won't hear anything. Lastly, if you have all three clues, the blue particles will no longer show you clues, but rather the boss itself. If no one is at the boss layer, the boss sits idle until people get close enough to trigger his normal behavior. So, if you use dark sight far away and notice the boss moving around, that means people are already at the boss compound. And then of course, there's a more obvious way of knowing where players are if they are shooting their guns. That's all the different special ways of locating players that I could think of. If there's something I missed, let us know in the comments below. Next, once you found players and you're going to fight, you need to gather more information before you can make an aggressive move. You need to know how many people are on their team, what guns they have, and their positions. There's a couple different ways to track how many players they have without seeing them. One of them being how many primary or secondary weapons you hear. Pistols obviously sound different from rifles, so if you hear multiple pistols or rifles, you can track how many players there are. As for their weapons, you should know what weapons sound like so you know how much damage they can deal and whether or not you can make an aggressive play. For example, if someone is shooting at you with a pistol from afar, that probably means they are running a shotgun or other close range weapon, since obviously if they had a rifle, they would use their rifle as their range weapon. Another scenario is if you are down a bar and you can hear they are using a Vetterli, for example, that you'd know they are able to one-tap you with a body shot if you're close enough, since their gun does more than 125 damage. Now, I don't expect all of you to just know what every gun in the game sounds like. However, each ammo type has a distinct type of bang that can help you get a grip on what they have and how much damage they might do. Long ammo has a violent snap to it. It sounds scary even at a distance. Medium ammo is more of a deep bang. Compact ammo sounds like a light snap, something like a firecracker, doesn't sound intimidating at all for a gun. Shotguns sound like an explosion in gun form. And the nitro sounds like a very violent snap, similar to the sparks, but more scary. The pistols of these ammo types all have the same characteristics, except they sound shorter and less intimidating. If someone has long ammo, their gun does 125 or more. If they have medium ammo, it's 50-50 if they do 125 or more. No compact ammo, as of this video, can do 125. Next, you need their positions. I can't give much advice here as it's mainly intuitive. Listen for footsteps, their gunshots, and what they are standing on. It's very hard to differentiate if people are above, below, or the same level as you. However, in most locations, the floors are made of different materials, so you can tell where they are based on what they are walking on. Now that you know what you're against, what do you do now? That varies, but I'll first go over what not to do. Never push someone without knowing what they have. Even if you know they don't have a shotgun, you don't want to find out someone has fanning the hard way. Never re-peek the same angle twice if someone is shooting at you. There's no peeker's advantage. If anything, is the other way around, and it favors the guy holding angle. Don't be a 4-star hero. I call idiots 4-star heroes because that's usually why they are stuck in 4-star. 4-star heroes are the people that play like they're gods and they try to fend off a trio by themselves, usually resulting in death. That, or they try to James Bond an entire trio by rushing into a boss lair or someone with a shotgun without caring because they think they can win. Don't withhold information either. You might think because of the first piece of advice, gathering information, that withholding info is a smart move. For example, if you play shotgun but you decide not to shoot either of your guns, so they can't make any deductions on what you have, in hopes they push into your shotgun, this will just lead to the game stalemating because people will just assume you're playing close range if you aren't engaging in any range combat. Also, not moving or giving your position away can also stalemate the game. If you're crouched in a corner not making a sound, other people won't want to try anything against you since they are unsure of your position and they don't want to walk into a trap. Sometimes it's superior to give the enemy something so they at least try to do things rather than both of you just sitting there not making any moves. This only prevents stalemates caused by your end. Lots of new players just crouch around and hold angles on the only entrances, then call people outside campers. If the people outside are moving around and peeking, they aren't the campers. So if you find yourself on the outside and the people inside aren't peeking or doing anything, they are the ones causing the stalemate. If you are the inside team, you just want to make sure you try and do something, whether that's make a run for it, peek, or push the outside players. Now let's go over what you should do when engaging people. There's 3 steps before firing a bullet. Position, peek, and aiming. Ideally, you need to position yourself in a position of power. This usually means high ground, but can also mean a good hiding spot for a stealth play, a good building you can control, or a spot where you can make good rotations or retreat. When you peek, unless your position is unknown, you should jump peek. Jump peeking is when you jump to move your head out of the expected head level to avoid getting one shot. Most aggressive peeks should pretty much be jump peeks. Crouch peeks do work against good players going for headshots, however, bad players usually only go for body shots and crouching into the bullet always feels terrible, so I usually stay away from crouch peeking. When it comes to aiming, most bad players never take enough time to aim. You have more time than you think to aim your shot. Flick shots most of the time aren't necessary. The biggest piece of advice I have aim-wise is to slow down and aim. As for when you should go for headshots, the answer is pretty much always. The only time you don't have to headshot is if you know they are down health and your gun can one-tap them, or you have a fast-firing weapon, such as the Nagant Officer, and you are choosing to try to two-tap them. If the enemy is far away, you definitely want to go for headshots because medium and compact ammo have a low damage drop-off range. That means their damage decreases exponentially to the point where you would need a 3-tap or more to kill someone with body shots. That isn't ideal because hitting multiple follow-up shots on a moving target with bullet speed needing to be accounted for only really gives them the opportunity to hide and heal. Next, here is the real cheat. This is basically aimbot without cheating because you never miss. I call it lazy aiming. Lazy aiming is where you just aim and wait for them to walk into it. Here you see I missed my initial shot and I know she's trying to run back inside, so I just hold angle on the door and I wait for her to go into it. I made 0 attempt to track her movement. Lots of people would have tried shooting her here and gave her the opportunity to run inside, which obviously would not be ideal. Here's another example where I tried to track his movement, but I decided that was too hard and I literally just waited for him to kill himself. As for knowing where to aim to do this, this is usually just where they want to run to cover. It would make no sense for him to try and cross over, so he's going to run towards the building. And one last example, she shot her bomb lance and wants to swap weapons while retreating, so I just aim in the direction I see her running and wait. Another tip for aiming is patience, especially when they don't know you're there. If they don't know about you, there's no reason you don't just get a free headshot. Here in this example, Lulu doesn't know about me, and I hold my fire and aim better instead of trying to shoot her immediately. I really can't stress it enough, the key to good aim is just patience when shooting. When it comes to pushing people, only push someone if they can't one-tap you or if you can kill them faster than they can kill you. Never push into multiple people. It's best to try and single people out and dismantle a team one by one. Knowing what to rotate isn't too complicated. If you hate your position, rotate. If you've exhausted all your peaks where you're too predictable, then rotating is ideal to throw off your enemy. This guide is mainly geared towards the specifics that apply to every match, so I don't want to dive too deep into close quarters combat, but one big piece of advice is when you're up close, treat your knife as your second shot. Once you shoot someone and need to to bolt your rifle, etc. If they are in melee range, just go for the finisher with your knife. It's much quicker and you can spam it pretty quickly. You will find yourself in scenarios where you are getting pushed while one tap. Sometimes you will have no choice but to try and pre-fire a headshot. Here's an example. They have a shotgun and they can't make distance and time, so I pre-fire at head level and kill him. If you don't have a spammy gun, you can still do this, but you have to predict the shot. Make sure to keep your distance from shotguns. Staying at least 60 meters back so you can't get one tapped is good. And what's even more ideal is being 20 or more meters back so the shotgun is rendered useless. Lastly, pay attention to the environment. You don't want to miss out on free barrel kills. Well, that covers most of the do's and don'ts of Hunt Showdown PvP. I live stream on Twitch. You can stop by if you have any questions. I will be releasing various guides on specifically range combat, close quarters combat, and solo and team gameplay, so make sure to subscribe if you're interested in that.